In part 3 of the mentorship series, I am talking to Isabel Cueva of Mayaluna Kids Clothing, Vanessa Arroyo of Seres Footwear, and Jose Rodriguez of Calaca Coffee. We're covering very important topics, fears and finances. Welcome to the Nopalera podcast, a place where I share the journey of building my company from the ground up, as well as the stories of others in our community. I am your host, Sandra Velázquez, founder of Nopalera, a culture-forward brand that celebrates and elevates culture. Aside from making great products, we are cultural storytellers with a mission to inspire our community to stand in their worth. In this podcast, you will hear a mix of solo and guest episodes around the entrepreneurial realities of building a company. I launched Nopalera from my Brooklyn apartment with no outside funding while working 3 jobs, raising my child in the middle of the pandemic at the age of 44. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope it inspires you to live boldly. Yeah, it's a great question that I think a lot of founders...
We obviously have followed your story from
intuitive,
day one.
but it really is helping our own brands when we're helping other brands.
This year, you are going to hear a new series of conversations where I provide live mentorship to other entrepreneurs in our community. One of our core values at Nopalera is courage is contagious. I created this podcast as an extension of these values to provide access, transparency, and therefore inspire others, and I'm talking to you, live their best lives while building. Between the ages of 20 and 40, I wished for a mentor, and I never really found one until a few years ago. So as they say, become what you wished you had. Welcome to part 3 of the mentorship series. Today, I am talking to Isabel Cueva, Vanessa Arroyo, and Jose Rodriguez. Isabel Cueva is the founder of Mayaluna, a kids' clothing line that helps and celebrates Latino culture through modern and aesthetic designs. Vanessa Arroyo is the creator of Seres Footwear. And Jose is the founder of Calaca Coffee. We're going to be covering topics of marketing, fears, and finances. Nowadays, it's like we need people to keep it real. Hi, Isabel. So good to meet you. Thank you for being here on the Nopalera podcast. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited to be here.
So you have some questions. You have an amazing business that you're getting off the ground, and I'd love to understand where you're at, what your existing hurdles are, and how I can help. So what are some of the hurdles that you have right now or questions?
Yes, so I am in the very initial stages of developing and hoping to move forward in creating this brand. So my first question is, I am stuck in analysis paralysis right now with my business, and I'm struggling with moving forward and making progress. I think another thing that's stopping me is I see what it takes to create a clothing company, and there's so many different steps that at times I feel like, what do I begin with first in terms of execution? So I've already identified there's a gap in the market. I honestly don't really have too many direct competitors. Obviously, there's a lot of different clothing brands, but none of them are focusing on what I'm focusing on, which is very specific Latino children's designs. There's a lot for adults, but not for children. And so I'm kind of looking at everything from figuring out who my providers are for like the actual goods, to where do I get this printed, to what direction do I take to start building a following. I think there's so many things to do that I don't know what to focus on. And so instead of moving forward, I just freeze.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So there's obviously a lot of things to think about. And when you're one person show, which I really relate to, that was me in the beginning, wearing all the hats. I think for me, I think of it like building blocks, right? So it's foundation first. It's like, why does this brand need to exist? Who are going to be the people that you are talking to that are going to need this, right? So obviously parents, right? Because the kids don't have wallets, they don't have credit cards. So you're talking to their parents, right? And I'm saying this as someone who used to play bilingual music for children. We need to communicate to the parents why this music is good and they should bring their kids out to our concerts. So I used to work in kids, in a different industry. And so understanding who you're talking to, what is the reason to believe? Like, why are they going to be attracted to this? Is it just culture? Is it fabric? Is there something else that is making this a unique item for them that they're going to want? And then fashion, which is a little different than my industry, it's very seasonal, right? So depending on when you're going to launch and who your audience is and where they live, is it something that is like winter, right? Is it summer? So those things I would take into consideration. And what is going to be that one thing that everyone needs? For example, is it a sweatshirt? Is it a shirt? Is it like, and maybe not starting, don't overwhelm yourself with trying to launch like 23 items at once, because with clothing, you're also going to have sizing to deal with. So Have you picked out those specific items? Like, okay, it's definitely going to be a top and a bottom, or we're going to focus on just this part, right? Because you can't do everything at once. And you don't want to, because you want to be able to have new things roll out over time.
Totally.
I would also do research on like other brands that you like that have built community, where it's clear that it's not just about the product, because that's where you can really learn about how to really galvanize your community around your brand.
One of the ideas I had is reaching out to fellow like influencers who have a larger following, who I know are Latina moms. Is there any reason you would give advice for or against that, to partner with influencers?
Yeah, I think influencers are great as long as it's authentic, because I think all of us now are jaded from looking at people who you can tell that they don't use a product or support the brand. They're just being paid to do so.
Yep.
So it has to be authentic, and moms trust other moms, right? So if there's like other mom Latina influencers out there who have a following of other moms,
Yep.
then those are your people. And absolutely like gifting them clothing
Yep.
to try on their kids so that other people can see, I think is great, because again, that's how we build trust, is from people that we already know, like, and trust.
Right.
We're always looking for recommendations from people we know, like, and trust.
Going off of collecting email subscribers, would you recommend focusing on Instagram or TikTok today, or focusing on both?
So with TikTok, it's so visual. I mean, so is Instagram, but TikTok, I think, is great if you're educating people about something. And with clothing, unless you have something to show, like, how would that work visually, right? Because TikTok is so visual, and it has to be fast to grab people's attention. And I think, again, it goes back to, where are your people congregating? So are they even on Instagram or TikTok? Are they just at the library? Are they just at the playground? And are they on Facebook? Are they in mom Facebook groups? So I think that that's the first thing, right? Because I know there's so many platforms. It's easy to think I should be on all the platforms, or where should I start? But where you should start is where your people are. So for me, at the time, it was on Instagram when I launched. And TikTok for us has been really more like an entertainment channel.
Yep.
Whereas Instagram, it's more engaged for us. That's where people live. That's where we focus our energy. But for you, it might be different. I know brands that launched on Twitter,
Wow.
And so it really just depends. But I would start with, who are your people? Where are these parents? Where are these mothers?
Yeah. And I know I'm part of Facebook, and I'm part of mom groups on Facebook, but I think I struggle with, how do I figure out where they are? Are they on Instagram? Are they on TikTok? So what methods do you suggest for figuring that out?
I would suggest asking them in those Facebook groups that you're in.
Okay.
Hey, I'm launching a clothing brand. Just be transparent. Just say, how many people here, like, with a thumbs up or a thumbs down emoji, or whatever, however you want to have them respond to your question in those Facebook groups. How many of you here use Instagram versus how many of you use TikTok? Like, you have to really start to put yourself out there and ask people, in those groups. If you're already in those groups, great. Start there.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandra.
Yes, my pleasure. Hi, Vanessa. Welcome to the No Paleta podcast. How are you?
Hi, Sandra. I'm well. Thank you. Thank you for having us here. What are some things that I should start to consider now, as I'm still entertaining the idea of wholesale. I'm still sitting on it. I know that one day it's going to be a thing that we do. So with considering that, what other things should I sit on? What kind of things should I just have sit in the back of my head as I grow as an entrepreneur, to kind of slowly ease my way into wholesaling one day?
Yeah, well, I think it's just selling in general, right? Whether you're selling on your website or whether you're wholesaling, there's still a lot of things that you're going to require. Like, you need some kind of bookkeeping system. So start sooner than later, because every single founder that has ever had a successful business that's eventually sold their company and written a book, they all say the same thing, which is like, I wish I would have had a bookkeeper from the beginning. To go backwards and try to comb through expenses and receipts and separate your personal from the professional, it's a complete nightmare. It's never going to be a good time to do that. So having some kind of bookkeeping system in place, even if you just use QuickBooks, that's fine. I use QuickBooks, right? You can even hire people from QuickBooks to help you create your chart of accounts, all of that. So if you don't have that already, that's something that you want to do, because you will need it. It's like, now you need it now. As soon as you start selling, you need some kind of bookkeeping system. And you also need a financial model. So if you didn't like the financial mentor or advisor that you're working with, I would find another one, because that's something that you also will need. You need to be able to look at your entire business, all of the expenses, every single thing from top to bottom, like on one sheet. And there's people out there that already have templates. You can work with an expert, but that's something that I recommend that a lot of people, again, no one wants to talk about financial models. Everyone wants to talk about marketing and like the fun part and design and community building and socials. But the back end is so important because if you don't have that, everything will fall apart. So those are things that I would start to put in place now, start to look into both of those, and also start to think about like, what is life like once you're selling this product? Who's managing the customer support tickets? Who's managing those kinds of inquiries from the outside? And so again, you can hire people to work a couple hours a week. In the beginning, it might be you, right? In the beginning, it was me. Now I have someone who handles all the customer support tickets. So really building that into your website language, your FAQs, like when someone has a question, who do they write to? What is that email address? So setting up all of these kind of operational things, I think operations in general is the thing that most people don't set up, and they wait until they need it. And then when they do, it's an emergency. So all of these things that I just said, those are the things that you need to set up in preparation to just have a business in general, whether you're wholesaling or whether you're selling on your website. You need all of those things, both.
Yeah, super important. And that's great to hear.
Set it up like you have a business.
Yeah.
Like prepare for these orders that are going to come. You have to set up the back end. And also, and I've talked about this a lot in this podcast, writing your SOPs. Again, the longer you wait, the more difficult it's going to be because you're not going to have free time. Once you launch and you're out in the world, there is no free time. So you want to do all of this now while you have the time before people are emailing you and whatever, right?
Yeah. It's great that all of these recommendations are super important because intuitively, I would have a document where it's like all of my login information, and all of a sudden the login information tab turned into instructions on how to fulfill an order. And then, so I think intuitively it may come natural to some people or not, but it's important. It's important to keep track of all of your things in case you need it.
Yeah, because one day you're going to pass these duties off to other people. That day might come sooner than you think. And you need to be able to pass them. Here's the directions. Here's the SOP for this retailer. Here's the SOP for updating the website. Here's the SOP for writing back to a customer support ticket. Everything. You want to start to create a knowledge base. What are the big burning questions that people are going to ask you about your product over and over? Because they're going to. We get the same questions every single day. Can I use your soap on my face? It doesn't matter if we put it on the website. It doesn't matter how many times we say it in socials. Like, people will continue to ask these questions. So what are those questions for you? Create that knowledge base so that people are just cutting and pasting answers.
Okay. So my next question, one of my biggest fears that has just paralyzed me at times is just, I'm scared of dealing with angry customers, people who, are not happy with the product, and people who may in fact receive a faulty product. That's a thing, working in footwear, people receive shoes that break, and it's luxury footwear. So we're selling $600, $700 pair of shoes, and the zipper breaks, or there's a nail in the footbed, or the heel popped off. This happens with luxury items. So we've dealt with it, and it's okay because it's always fallen back on a brand that doesn't belong to me. But this time it's going to be the real deal for me. And it's scary. It's scary. And it's probably the scariest thing that has held me back from wanting to sell something. Cause it's like, all right, now I'm responsible. And if this product is defected, it's me and it's my name on it. So how do you think one could navigate that?
So that's a great question. And I think, again, a lot of people don't think about this, right? They get excited about the launch and the creation, and you don't think about what happens when you get those angry customers that write back and they're not happy with their order or something went wrong. And that, just so you know, it happens to everyone. You're not alone, right? If you get someone who writes you to complain, if you get someone who comments on your socials, who comments on your ads, we live in the world of Yelp, right? Everyone is a reviewer with an opinion. Everyone wants to have their opinion heard. People are angry on TikTok, on Amazon, everywhere, right? Big successful brands have horrible reviews on Amazon, right? This is just the world we live in. So I think the question is like, what is it really? Because when you say it's your biggest fear, like, what is that really about? Is it really because you think your product isn't good? Is it because you feel like it's more ego-based, like you personally feel attacked? Like, what is it really? Because we live in the world of products. Both of us work in consumer goods. not everyone's going to be happy. Not everyone's going to like it. Everyone's foot is different. Everyone's skin is different. It's not going to work for everybody. Just know that going in. I also don't like to answer customer support tickets. That's why I hired someone to handle it for me. You might also just want to go that route, but you need to create that knowledge base so that they are always answering with the brand voice and how you want to speak to your customers. Mm-hmm. And then what are your policies? What's your return policy? Is it 30-day money back? Is it we will replace your order? Is it, what is it, right? You come up with all of your policies so that you just have your framework and you know exactly what to do when someone responds in a certain way. But I think there's no way around the fact that it's going to happen. I think really just asking yourself, what is that about really?
Right. And that's a great point that you raised. At first, I could honestly tell you, it may have just been fear of putting myself out there in like a vulnerable state. But then, you get over that. You're like, I'm going to sell something and I want it to be bomb. So you get over that. And then you're just like, all right, now I'm still scared. I'm still scared that I'm going to put out a faulty product, because then if I have to repair that, it's money that I have to be providing and stuff. But yeah, I think that's great advice. That question has a lot of answers, and it's just things that you need to work through as an entrepreneur. Be confident.
Yeah. And just know that it's just part of it, right? It's part of the whole situation. It comes with the package. You're going to sell a product in this world that we live in of reviews, right? And customers get to respond on multiple platforms, right? With their opinions. This is just the world we live in. And so you do everything you can do to make a great product. Ultimately, like, I'm not looking at every bar of soap before it goes to someone's house. I cannot control that. I'm not on the quality control line. That's our manufacturing partner. So where can you actually have control over the situation? Is it, if there's a problem with the zipper or this or that, is that something that you can fix at the manufacturing level, right? And then you do everything you can to control the quality of your product. And then after that, right, then it's a little bit out of your control, right? So you can fix the things where you can fix, but you have to just accept that you can't be everywhere. Well, thank you for joining me today, Vanessa. I'm excited to see your brand launch.
Thank you.
Taking the steps.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Hey, Jose, how are you? Good to see you.
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to learn more about Calaca and what's going on. So tell me.
Excited to be here. Yeah. So basically, we had a little trailer, and that was in a 3,000 square foot lot. So in that lot, we had a previous business, which was a Mexican boba that we kind of did aguas frescas. It was something that we tried out, but fruits and vegetables, it's very expensive. And we kind of, with coffee drinks, we kind of just doubled down on coffee because we both love coffee. So in that space, we had monthly events where we invited other Latino entrepreneurs that had smaller businesses. Cause we knew when we were in our other, there's not so many places that congregate the people that love your stuff.
Yeah.
So we could only take up so much space. So we try to build that community. But now that we don't have the space, it's a lot harder because, we can't host it. We can't, hey, do you want to look for cool brands and reach out? So it's been a little bit harder just because we don't have our own proper space. But it is something that you do have events lined up. We do San Francisco Coffee Festival, which is a huge 2-day event, 20,000 people show up. And we always get really, really good feedback. It's cool. Kind of the first year we did it, it was literally our first year. And there was the coffee giants were the best of the third wave, Bay Area and LA. And you're just there. You're kind of a little starstruck. At least I was starstruck because hey, I used to go to these coffee shops. I used to drink their coffee. And now
now they're drinking yours. Now they're drinking
ours. I thought it was a big event pushing for us. So kind of just finding more events like that.
Okay. I love that. Also, have you considered, everyone knows what coffee is, right? If people love coffee.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered popping up or sponsoring or somehow involving yourself in the business sector to provide those people coffee? I'm thinking Twitter, WeWork, Facebook, whatever, all of these businesses. It doesn't have to be those mega ones, but just tech industry, right? Or just businesses, financial district in San Francisco where people need coffee. Can you pop up there and kind of spread the word that way too?
Yeah, so we actually popped up at Twitter a couple of times. We were in the bidding to provide their coffee at Twitter since they let go all the Bon Appetit staff. But it was just something that they wanted it ready in 15 days. And they wanted a full program. So hey, we're two friends just trying to sell coffee. So unfortunately, in the turnaround time, it's just not possible. We're not going to be able to provide full 24-hour support for a 15-story building. So it is something that we have been kind of in the talks of, and being so close to the tech sector, it is something I do want to push for.
Okay. So tell me, what would you have needed to make that happen?
So in order to make that happen, so it was basically a retail cafe. So we would need
Okay.
like a staff of 1 or 2 in the mornings. And
Okay.
then we would have to maintain 3 or 4 like auxiliary pods that just kind of have like drip coffee. And that one, they needed 24-hour support because they have people there like all the time. So we had to scale the staff probably to like 10 people
Okay.
in like 15 days. So it wasn't that we didn't think we were ready. It was just that they literally needed it next week.
Okay. So if they had said, can you do this starting next quarter? Like, let's give you 3 months lead time. Would that have been doable? I'm just curious because I'm trying to like push you to scale.
I think so. Like I was honestly like, like, hey, if I have to live here, it might not be possible, but I just think it was setting ourselves up for failure if we would have said yes.
It was the time.
Exactly. You have to know when to pick your battles. And I just think that was it.
Okay. But those are the types of relationships, like that's how you're going to get your foot in the door, right? Because having that type of visibility and that type of brand awareness is going to trump you getting into a grocery store and living on a shelf with 40 other coffee brands.
Yeah.
If you got that opportunity once, Jose, you can get it again. Like, I'm super excited about that because that's the type of stuff that, like, if you have the opportunity for retail to do it like that in a place where you know that you have guaranteed customers, you have captive audience, like people are working, they need coffee, right?
Exactly.
And you are the only option. It's guaranteed. You know what I mean? The only reason it wouldn't be is if COVID came back and the building shut down, which we know that that's possible now. Anyway, but back to your brand identity, right? Like, again, it's building that cult following to me is like the core of everything. And like, you have to tell the world you exist.
Yeah. Right now we're kind of pretty reliant on like social media, and
great.
Like we have a pretty good following on TikTok, but what else would you recommend doing, like other than, like obviously social media, but like what other? Email. I kind of started on that too. We just added it to the website.
Yes. So build your cult following. Like, again, we don't own our Instagram followers and we don't own TikTok. So if those two shut down overnight, there goes our followers. So your email list, you get that. That's yours. And that is worth gold. So start creating incentive programs. Like, tell me why I would want to be on your email list. Like, are you going to send me like fun coffee newsletters, or is it going to be like fun pictures? Or are you going to give me incentives? Like, are you going to give me discounts? Is there subscribe and save on your website? Like, what's the incentive to join your cult?
Yeah, like right now I just put it up there just because like everyone says email. So like I'm kind of like the marketing guy. So I'm the one that kind of like figures this out. So right now I haven't done anything. We do have subscribe. I just added subscriptions. So you could like do a 1 month, 1 week. So you could send our beans or our cold brew kits. Our emails list is not that big yet. I think it's like at around 100 people.
It's fine. You start somewhere. You just start somewhere and you keep leading people there. Sign up on the email list, get 10% off your first order. Sign up on the email list, enter to win whatever, like 5 kits, right? Give people incentives, like make it fun, because the cost of acquiring customers through advertising is so expensive versus like you have to give away a bag of coffee. Like you can afford to do that more than you can afford to do a billboard. So I would definitely focus on that. Make sure your emails are fun because we get a lot of emails. All of us get a lot of emails. So fun pictures, fun headlines. Doesn't have to be a long newsletter. Like people don't really read that much. It's really like, what's the headline? What's the picture? What's the call to action? Click here to order your kit. And then really creating like a calendar of the year. I'll say like, are you going to have sales a couple times a year? Are you going to have themes, and really creating a marketing calendar. And honestly, I know it sounds daunting, right? Because you're doing everything like 2 people, but the more you can do in advance, the more advanced planning you can do, literally the easier life will be. So like, even if you sit down for a weekend and you plan out the rest of 2023 and you're like, in April, we're going to have a spring sale. In June, we're going to have a summer sale. And then, this is what we're going to do for Father's Day, whatever it is, right? Like create that marketing calendar, because once you have that blueprint, you can do it again next year. But you have to sit down and plan it out. So I know it sounds hella boring, but advanced planning is the key.
Okay. Yeah. Like, is there any companies that are doing like newsletters or like kind of their marketing campaign really good that you would recommend following?
Yeah. So there's actually a website. I think it's called Mail Charts. I can send it to you later, but I think it's mailcharts.app. And you can basically see everybody's email newsletters there, like to get inspiration. And you can also, if you're not a designer, right, and you feel like this is going to take up too much time, you can hire a freelancer from Upwork and just have them create the templates for you with your brand colors, whatever your Calaca colors are, right? Because you want to keep it on brand. You want to keep it consistent, right? What are the colors? You don't need to reinvent the wheel every time you send an email. So you just have your templates that you just plug and play. You add a different picture, you add a different headline, you change the call to action, right? And you should be sending emails like twice a week.
Okay. Yeah.
In the beginning, you can send once a week as you're building, right? But then eventually you're going to see like who are the people that are opening your emails. That's going to become your most engaged segment. And then you can send them 2 emails and everyone else can get 1.
Okay. Right now we're using like Klaviyo. I think it's kind of pretty standard.
It's pretty standard. It's what we use. Pretty much everyone uses it. So yeah.
Okay.
It's expensive as you scale.
Yeah.
It gets more expensive the more people you add, but there's just not that many options.
Yeah.
That's why everyone uses that.
Yeah, so I think for me it would be like kind of like financial models and kind of like business planning, because like we know it's working, but it's a very loose business plan. So it's kind of like fine tuning our financials. I think is going to help us. This like we had to do taxes for the first time. That was very interesting. So I think that's like kind of like our weak link is kind of like financials. We're not really money guys,
Yeah, neither was I.
Yeah, like Latino community is not really known for that. So it's kind of like we don't have an uncle or somebody to tap into. But like, hey, how does this forming a business LLC work?
Yeah.
Like that's something that we kind of had to find out on our own.
Yeah, 100%. First of all, I love that you're asking about financial modeling, or like that's what you're thinking about, because no one ever thinks about that. And I feel like people want to talk about marketing and like growing a following and like all the fun stuff. But literally, if you don't have the foundation, which is the financial model, it's going to come back and bite you. So what I did is actually I went and I found a SCORE mentor, which is a free national program. So SCORE, just like SCORE. They're definitely in San Francisco. And you can definitely find people who already have financial model templates. Again, we're not reinventing the wheel. Like this has already been done. People have already built financial models for coffee businesses, right? So you just need to find somebody who has the template and like walk you through it to teach you how to use it and get comfortable with it. And once you do, a financial model is nothing more than a spreadsheet, by the way. You've seen a spreadsheet before. So it's just like you need to be able to see your business on a sheet and see like, here's how much money we need to make. Here's how much the operating expenses cost. Here's how much, what our margins are. What does it look like at the very bottom once we deduct everything? So all of that gives you the ability to play with scenarios, Jose, so that you can see, okay, well, what happens if like we have a slow month, but we still have to pay the rent? So what does that mean for our bank account? What happens if we have a great month? That type of stuff. It allows you to create different scenarios to see how it impacts the financial health of the business. So the accelerators are long processes. I don't think that any of them that I was in, with the exception of True Beauty Ventures, which is a beauty accelerator, so that doesn't really apply to you, that was the only one that focused on financial modeling. All the others were really kind of more generalist, wholesale 101, marketing 101, like how to blah, blah, blah. So they were more general. And the Target Accelerator was very much focused on target. So again, no one is coming down to the nitty gritty. Like what you're talking about is like foundational business stuff that is super important. And honestly, like I wish there was an accelerator. I'm not aware of any that deals just with that aspect. So I would just go find someone, like you're in San Francisco. Yeah. The answers that you need are literally in your backyard. Like you do not need to go far. If it feels far away, it's not. You just need to go find somebody who has a financial model template that will walk you through it and help you plug in your business into it. And then you are going to run it ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is like super like long-term, but there has been pretty good success. We've been on the news, we've been on the San Francisco Chronicle. So we have accolades behind us. So there has been people reaching out, but it's been 2 people, but they're like, hey, like, are you guys considering taking investors? Kind of how you said, like, hey, still trying to figure out what we're doing. So it's not like the time, but like, when do you know it's time to like either take out a loan or to get outside financing? Like, when do you know it's time? Because like right now, like, the business, it's fully sufficient. Like ever since the initial capital we put in, it's been just circulating. We've just kind of been growing. So like, how do you know
that's awesome?
It's time to take that next step? Because it's a little scary.
Yes. Okay. But let's dive into that real quick before I answer your question, because I want to go over like the different ways that you can get money. Tell me why you say it's scary.
Honestly, just kind of having to owe some, or just like if someone's going to give you a check, it's like, okay, like now because like right now, like I'm enjoying my time. Like I'm making TikToks, I'm working on the website, everything that my previous job didn't offer.
Yeah.
I want to do this. Oh, you don't have the experience for it. Like now that's what I'm doing. So it's like right now, like, yeah, it's hard, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It's like, I just don't want to, I don't want to like stress out more than I already am trying to get it off the ground.
Yeah. Okay. So got it. Tell me, if you were to get money, do you know exactly what you would use it for?
Yeah.
If someone were to give you $100,000 today, do you know what you would use it for? You don't have to tell me, but do you know what you would use it for? Like, do you have a list of things? Like, here are things that we need to do to scale this business. And when we get money, this is where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have like a loose plan of what, depending on, like you said, like depending on how much we could get, like there's a kind of like a step plan that we kind of have.
Okay, cool. So different types of money, different ways to get money. How do you know? The question is like, how do you know when it's time to go raise money or borrow money? You'll know because there'll be no other choice. So here's what I mean. In the beginning, I also had no money when I started my business. I did it with my credit card, right? And then that was not enough. And so then I took out working capital loans, right? So now we're talking like Shopify gave me money, which was a great model because I didn't have to make a big monthly payment. They just took out a daily percentage of sales. So it's like, I didn't even know that it was happening, right? I didn't feel it as much as if it was like a big payment every month to make. So working capital loans, great. Why? Because no equity. Like it's just a loan. You pay it back and then it's done. Everyone moves on. They go their separate ways. You're not connected in any way, shape, or form. If you can do working capital loans, do that until you can no longer do that. And then you'll know, you know what, these working capital loans of like 30K, 50K are no longer enough to scale Calaca. We need $1 million. That's what you know. When the option in front of you stops being enough. Like for me, the option of my American Express card stopped being enough. I had bigger purchase orders, right? Because we're product-based businesses.
Yeah.
We have to front the money in advance. We're not SaaS corporations, right? You know, we have to sit on inventory. That's where our money is. Our money is sitting in the inventory and you need money to pay for that. And the American Express card wasn't enough. So then it was working capital loans. And then the working capital loans were no longer enough because the purchase orders were more than $50,000. So then it was like, okay, I need to go and raise real money because our financial resources in front of us cannot meet the demand. We cannot keep up with the demand with the money that is in front of us. So that is when I knew that it was time to go raise VC money. Again, if you can do working capital loans, do that, right? If you can get money from someone else that they're willing to take the risk, this is like what safe notes are. An investor is going to give you money. They know that they might not get it back because no valuation has been assigned. It's risk for them. Obviously, you don't want to lose people's money, right? But risk is part of what we do as entrepreneurs, but it's also part of the investor game, right? They know that everything's a risk as well. So there's different types of ways to get money. Also grants, like if you can apply to grants, I would spend right now because you're small. I know that you're doing a lot, but you have more time probably than you know compared to like fast forward into the future 3 years. So if you can apply for every single grant that you can find, whether it's like Latino grant, you know, small business grant, anything, as much as you apply to accelerators, apply to grants.
Okay.
That's free money. That's even better. It's just completely free. I'm always, you know, looking at grants that come across my desk. Sometimes people email them to me because they know. There's all sorts of different platforms that you can look for. I would obviously first look at anything that's like Latino related because there's a lot of grants like specifically for our community, and do all of those things before you go and raise VC money. Because when you're raising venture capital money, it sounds very exciting when you see people raise like millions of dollars, but you're essentially getting married to someone. Yeah. And then it's like till death do you part. And you have to make sure, like when you do get to that place, if you do get to that place where you take venture money, if you want to go that route, because again, not everyone goes that route. It's not required. But if you do go that route, then you want to make sure that those people are bringing you more than just the money. Yeah. What resources do they have? Do they have retail connections? Do they have wholesale connections? Do they have distributor connections? What are they bringing to the table to help you scale besides the money? Because there's plenty of money in the world. You need more than just the money. You need the resources. Yeah. Thank you for opening up your time and answering questions. I know you're very busy, so just gracias. Yes, my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us. Remember to leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening from. Spread the word so we can impact and grow the community. If you are an entrepreneur looking for more real talk and resources, you can join my entrepreneurial newsletter from my personal website, sandralilavelasquez.com, but also visit nopalera.co to pick up your favorite self-care items for yourself and your loved ones. Join the Nopalera mailing list to be the first to hear about new products, exclusive promos. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at nopalera.co. Stay resilient.